Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Jim Olson, Assistant Executive Director of the NTCA, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Today's webinar is titled, Specifying Natural Stone Tile Installations with Confidence. This presentation will discuss making informed choices when specifying natural stone wall and floor tile installations by considering the impact that the stone, substrate, and finished environment will have on the mortar and grout specification. Our sponsor for this presentation is Ardex. Before we begin, I have some business to address. Today's webinar will be muted. Please use your participant feedback or the chat screen on your computer to type in your questions. We will answer your questions at the end of this presentation. All of our webinars are archived and available to watch at any time after the webinars are presented. Please email your request to me. I will provide my email address on the chat screen when we begin. If the audio on your computer is poor, call the number on your chat screen to listen on your phone. Today's speaker, Mark Pennine, has been involved in the tile and stone industry for over 35 years. As a third-generation tile installer, Mark owned his own tile contracting business for 20 years. Mark has worked for Ardex Americas for the past 8 years, most recently as the technical manager of the tile and stone installation systems. He has presented tile and stone installation products and procedures to contractors, architects, manufacturers, and distributors. Mark is active on many industry committees, including the ANSI ASC A108 Standards Committee, NTCA Technical Committee, MMSA, and IICRC Substrate Committee. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Jim. The aim of this webinar is to enable listeners to make informed choices on the selection of materials when specifying natural stone tiling by considering the impact the natural stone tiles, the substrates, and finished environments will have on the mortar and grout specification. It will also demonstrate how to avoid common installation failures through optimum product specification and guidance on best practices. It's always recommended to use your industry resources to educate yourself on proper material and installation product selection and installation guidelines. Although natural stone has always been a popular choice, recently it has had a resurgence within tiling. Nowadays, modern ceramic tile production may mean it's difficult to tell a natural stone product from a replica. However, it's important to identify natural stone and specifically the type of natural stone to be able to create a robust specification. Let's take a look at different types of natural stone. Stone is a natural quarry product and will vary from tile to tile even when mined from the same quarry. It can have a tendency for warping, staining, or discoloration, and this will also vary within a typical supply. With this in mind, we will take you through the key watch points by providing you with a basic understanding of the types of natural stone tiles available, the considerations when specifying the mortar, grout, and installation requirements. Igneous rocks, these are the rocks formed from molten rock. As an example is granite. It contains approximately 60% feldspar, 30% quartz, and 10% mica. It's the mica which leads us to take additional considerations with natural stone due to its tendency to discolor. Granite is a great option for kitchens and bathrooms due to its antibacterial qualities. Sedimentary rocks, also known as limestone, are formed through a consolidation of sediments, seashells, and other minerals, and as a result, each stone will show its own colors and markings. There is often surface pitting on these types of stones. Sandstone is a hard stone and can be particularly porous. And like many stone tiles, it will require specialist treatment to reduce the porosity of its surface. Metamorphic rocks, which are modified by heat and pressure, such as marble, often have mineral veining. Some marble tiles can be weak and may have a mesh backing or resin on the reverse tile to strengthen them. Such backings need to be checked to ensure that the backing mesh and its water-resistant glue are well bonded and not flaking. Some green marbles, for example, have been known to be adversely affected by moisture since they contain clays. Seek additional technical advice when specifying these, as they will probably require special installation materials. However, marble is a versatile stone and it can be used in virtually anything: statues, stairs, walls, floors, and countertops. Bluestone is sometimes referred to as basalt, is one of the most common natural stones around the world. Basalt is used on house roofing and floors because of its hard texture. Slate may be riven. Riven slate tends to vary in thickness, and within all uncalibrated stone, the variety and thickness requires consideration for the installation and leveling products required. Some sources of slate may contain oil, which can lead to the initial adhesion being lost as the oil migrates to the tile adhesive interface. It's always sensible to trowel a small area first. Honed stones are machined to create a smooth and even surface. Agglomerate stone, which used to be referred to as conglomerate stone, often looks like polished granite or terrazzo. The tiles are made by mixing marble or granite chips with polyester or epoxy resin. A note of caution is required here. Some products contain resins and mineral fillers that may expand on wetting. This can lead to warping, resulting in lippage at the tile joints. It is also worth mentioning here that it's recommended to use low alkalinity rapid drying systems with the agglomerate stone. Every natural stone will have a unique appearance due to the natural variation of tiles. It's important to ensure a sufficient amount is specified in one batch and that the tiles are mixed so that the shades are blended effectively. Some stone tiles are also packed wet, so they will need to dry out. Substrates for tiling. Stone tiles and the situations where we place tiling influence the choice of the tile mortar or grout and the specification. There are three main types of tiling mortars or adhesives. There are dispersion, cement-based, and reaction resins. The reason it's worth taking a moment to talk about them is because they develop adhesion in different ways. A dispersion, otherwise called as a ready mixed or paste adhesive, are for wall use and found most commonly in DIY and domestic tiling markets. They need to dry to develop adhesion. Cement-based adhesives are commonly used in the contract market for both wall and floor tiling. These bagged adhesives, when mixed with water to form a mortar, which sets and hardens. Reaction resin adhesives, commonly referred to as epoxies or a polyurethane, are generally 2 or 3 component systems which react together when mixed to gain adhesion. These are used in specialist areas. This very basic principle is important, as considerations such as the body of the tile type, its level of water absorption, the tile size and weight, the width of the grout joint coupled with the porosity of the substrate, or the end tiling situation will affect your choice when specifying, especially for dispersion products. As we continue through this webinar, we will build on this initial framework. At the end of the day, Although not a visible part, it's the correct choice of the mortar and correct installation that literally holds the overall project in place for years to come. Although we've addressed basic adhesion properties earlier, it's important to see that by adding additional polymers and formulating the products to suit given situations, we can develop a range of enhanced properties for mortars and grouts for an installation. For example, we may start with a standard mortar and modify the formulation to improve adhesion. Basic polymer modified mortars were developed in the late 1960s. We may need less water staining on a towel or need to reduce the risk of warping, so we use a rapid drying technology or an epoxy. We may start with a standard mortar but realize that we need more flexibility due to thermal expansion when toweling onto heated slabs. Ultimately, we may have even added all of these elements, but we want to deliver fail-safe technology and strength, so we add additional elements and develop unique fiber-reinforced adhesive performance. At this point, it's useful to familiarize ourselves with the classifications within the American National Standards. According to the ANSI material specifications, a dry set cement mortar is 118.1. A modified dry set mortar is ANSI 118.4, and our new improved modified cement mortar is ANSI 118.15. Some products will meet and exceed the standards, but are also formulated to provide specialist solutions for natural and agglomerated stone. Some natural stone and agglomerate stone tiles, such as those based on marble and limestone, are moisture sensitive and prone to water staining and warping. This is important to consider when specifying the mortar, rapid drying technology mortar, or epoxy. Rapid dry technology in mortars and screeds were developed to avoid this issue and cope with the demands of natural stone installations. These unique formula products demonstrate considerable advances on standard mortars when specifying natural stone and provide exceptional real-life performance on site. These are clever products, easy to use and guaranteed to perform. Water staining can be an issue with some stone tiles. Let's take a look at how to avoid it. There can be many reasons which leads to staining. Incorrect surface treatment or inadequate cleaning regimen. Moisture from the installation products or from the substructure. Unfortunately, we often see the effects of staining of stone tiles, which is irreversible. Here we can see an example of the spot bond fixing where normal cement mortar has been used. The water from the mortar has penetrated the porous tile. We would never condone spot bonding, as we explain later in this webinar. However, the problem of water staining into the tile can be avoided by the use of a rapid drying technology mortar or an epoxy and grout designed for use with natural stone. The rapid drying formula system binds the mixed water with the mortar or grout, virtually eliminating the risk of water staining and guaranteeing the best possible finish to all natural stone applications. This rapid drying formula should not be confused with mortars which solely have rapid setting or rapid hardening. Substrates for tiling stone tiles and the situations where we place tiling influence the choice of the tile mortar or grout and the specification. Common substrates for walls: your sand and cement mortars, masonry or concrete, gypsum board, which is also known as drywall. You have cementitious coated extruded foam backer boards, cement board, and fiber cement board. Other substrates will include brickwork, block work, plaster walls, and we even see metal substrates. Common substrate for floors: mortar beds, or sometimes called screeds, existing concrete, gypcrete, plywood overlay and backer boards, Portland cement-based self-leveling, and uncoupling mats. A note of caution: when putting natural stone over gypcrete, you want to make sure to use an appropriate waterproofing or crack isolation membrane before installing natural stone. You should never directly adhere natural stone to gypcrete. Other substrates we see: existing terrazzo, existing tiles, again metal, and now acoustical mats. Always specify the substrates to be clean, sound, dimensionally stable. This is important when considering expansion and shrinkage, which can be caused by the effects of change in the moisture content. For example, make sure concrete has cured sufficiently, a minimum of 28 days before installing natural stone. Dimensionally stable is also important when considering movement under loads. A lack of rigidity of the supporting substrate will incur unacceptable deflections under loads and impacts. Stone tiling is basically a rigid finish and therefore requires rigid support. Flat, dry, appropriate for the given condition. When specifying onto boards and membranes, always refer to the manufacturer's instructions. As you need a flat base to tile on, smoothing compounds are ideal. Cost-effective way to achieve this: tile mortar should not be used to prepare surfaces greater than a 1/4 inch thick. Use an appropriate substrate repair mortar or leveling product for that application. Commonly, there are two types: latex and powder, or a pre-blended polymer modified patching or self-leveling compound. Traditional screeds or mortar beds require a minimum of 3 weeks prior to tiling. Substrate shrinkage and recommended drying times can cause practical timing problems on site. With this in mind, a number of rapid drying and rapid hardening screeds renders have been formulated. A bonded screed, an unbonded screed, and even a floating screed with rapid drying formulation will allow tile installations as early as 4 hours. Not all mortars are suitable for very thick application. That's why rapid drying and hardening natural stone adhesives were formulated for bed thicknesses up to 1.25 inches thick, and for translucent tiles, these products can be grouted in just 3 hours after installing. Some natural stone tiles are heavy, and it's important to check that the substrate to be tiled is dimensionally stable and able to support the weight of the tiling. Installation should always follow trial and error. Key in the mortar to the substrate and tile back. Directionally trowel and periodically check and ensure adequate mortar coverage. The required coverage for natural stone installations in dry and wet areas is 95%, with no voids exceeding 2 square inches and no voids within 2 inches of the tile corners. Specifying tile grouts. This is the final, most visible part of the fixing process and is the most important to get it right. Beautiful stone tiles will look fantastic when grouted well and with the right product. As with all tile mortars and grout selection, it is equally important to consider the perimeters and the tile in the finish environment. Although dispersion or ready-mix grout tend to be popular within the DIY sector, professionals with use as a cementitious or reaction resin system due to a number of issues relating to ready-mix grouts. A highly polymer modified grout may be required. Nowadays, it's more likely that the flexible polymers are built into and added as a bottle admix. However, in the case of natural stones, it's also important to consider the water absorption levels of the natural stone. Remember, a natural stone tile may be water sensitive, so a rapid drying technology grout should be selected from the range. A range of grouts has been specifically developed for natural stones. Unfortunately, we often see the effects of staining of the stone tiles, which is irreversible. Here we can see an example of picture framing. Normal cement grout has been used. The water from the grout has penetrated into the porous stone. The problem of water staining into the stone can be avoided by the use of rapid drying technology or by using an appropriate epoxy for natural stone. The rapid drying formula binds the mixed water with the mortar or grout, virtually eliminating the risk of water staining and guaranteeing the best possible finish to all natural stone. Stone tiles should be carefully checked for grout retention on the surface, especially if a pigmented or contrasting colored grout is used. It's advisable to trowel a small area to begin with. Some natural stones will require sealing prior to grouting. In some cases, applying the grout to the whole surface of the stone tile can result in a more uniform appearance. Butt joining of the tiles is not recommended. Always consider movement implications and, where necessary, the mortar's ability to lose water through the tile joints to form an adequate bond. Always perform a test area also to check for scratching. Installation best practices. The size of the notch trowel chosen depends on the surface being tiled, the size of the stone, and the profile on the back of the stone, and the degree of coverage required. For tiling walls and floors in dry internal conditions, as well as in wet areas, the mortar coverage should be a minimum of 95% on the back of the stone. However, when tiling to external locations in wet areas such as showers and swimming pools, solid bed fixing of 100% should always be the installer's goal. It's advisable to lift the tile now and again and check solid bed fixing is achieved. Ensure that the mortar has been applied in ribs and the back of the tile buttered with a thin layer of mortar before it's firmly pressed in place with a sliding action back and forth within the open time of the mortar prior to a skin forming. This method of installation allows for full contact of the mortar with the back of the tile and the substrate. Here we can see an example of how solid bed fixing can be achieved by using modern floor tile mortars. A lack of solid bed fixing can leave the installation prone to impact damage in the future of cracked tiles. There is a trend towards very large format natural stone floor tiles with varied thicknesses. In order to achieve a solid, thick bed under these stones, pourable adhesives have been introduced within the rapid range and to help successful in the solid bed fixing. We would never condone spot bonding. It often leads to cracking and delamination as the stones are subject to a lack of support and differential stresses. Always specify movement joints according to TCA EJ 171 is imperative. Use a suitable sealant for all movement joints that are compatible with the specified stone. Aftercare. Many stones will require sealing or waxing following an installation. This process can benefit slip resistance, color enhancement, and restore a polished effect. Impregnating sealers will reduce water permeability and future staining. Specific sealants are required for stone. To sum up, an installation should have a suitable substrate, solid bed fixing, and appropriate thickness of the mortar bed. The adhesive should be a rapid drying technology mortar or an epoxy, and specify a white mortar for translucent stones. Grouting should have specific rapid drying technology or an epoxy. Use a color that matches the stone. Most natural stones will require sealing. Use specific silicone sealants designed for natural stone. Natural stone tiles can create a perfect finish for most environments. Thank you.
Mark, great job. Thank you. Lots of phenomenal information there that I think our attendees will be able to use. And I just want to thank everyone for attending. And please do not hesitate to email me with your request for the archive version. We've had quite a few already asked for it. That's great. Look forward to an invite coming for our July 11th presentation coming up soon. And Mark, we do not have one question here. Everything you went through, oh, we just got one. Why are ready-mix grouts not recommended to use?
Well, ready-mix grouts, they have a lot of added acrylic, which helps that product stay usable or wet within that container. So all that moisture that's in that product is going to, could leach into the natural stone, which are very porous.
Great, okay. Let's see here if we have any other questions. I don't see any. And anyhow, everybody, thank you very much. I appreciate what you know, what Mark has told us, what he's informed us about. I appreciate you all coming on. Please take a moment to look for your upcoming invite to the July 11th program. And Mark, if you'll just hang on for a second, we'll chit-chat a little bit, but thanks again to everybody.
Thank you.